Okay, so that's been moored up for a week in the Marlow area. Time to head back down to Henley. Of course, I'm doing it on the hottest day of the year, and the salter steamer has just pulled out ahead of me, which means I'm going to have to put up with that going through all the locks, assuming they're going through to Henley. So, next stop, Henley-on-Thames. Hopefully I can find a mooring. I do like turning this boat in the Thames, it's so easy. Again, the engine's a bit spooky first thing this morning. No doubt that'll settle down within 10 minutes or so. And there just ahead of me you can see salter steamer. And I seem to have split 2 slipper launches there. Oh well, that's the way it goes. And of course I'm doing this on a day where there is an amber heat warning, and tomorrow it goes to red. Hence my reason for doing it today, because tomorrow is really going to be too hot. Now, one of the things I'm hoping to do down here is at Hurley lock. Apparently there are services, so I'm hoping to fill the tank up, the water tank at the front. I've used about 350 litres, I guess, so far. It holds about 1,200 litres, and it's about 3/4 full, so I reckon I've used about 300 litres, which is not a lot. I have been topping it up with water bottles, but you know, you don't get much in each time, so I really do need to make sure it's full before we go into Henley Royal Regatta, because there won't be any opportunities there to fill the tank up at all. So at Hurley I'm going to be looking out for services. This morning I did the usual toilets and rubbish. I did actually find a working hose or water point in the park there. The one I looked at the other day wasn't working, but I found another one and it was working. But it didn't really seem to be any way to get a hose connected to it, or even a bottle underneath the tap to fill it up. It was in a sort of cabinet and it was quite difficult to get at, so couldn't use that. I did find a sluice, so somewhere where you could have emptied your toilet, but because I've got that Julka toilet, I use the general toilet, so it works perfectly well there. Just pour the urine down the toilet, flush it, no problems at all. And the solids waste, as long as it's sort of broken down in there and become liquid form, and not too lumpy, not too much tissue, just goes straight down the toilet. Absolutely no issues at all. Works a charm. So there you go. Service is done. All I really need is some water. That would really sort of help things. Anyway, stunning day. Hardly a cloud in the sky. Super hot. Massive thunderstorms last night. Let's see how this goes. Should take about 3.5 to 4 hours to get to Henley. It's about 8 miles and 3 locks, I think. I think we've got Temple Lock, Hurley Lock and Hambleden Lock to get through. So let's see how this goes. Well, that's kind of interesting. The sort of steamer, when approaching the lock, sort of took this corner here very wide, and I wondered why. And now it's vanished up towards the weir. That's quite odd. Don't know where it's going up there. It's going through the lock. It's taken a very odd route to go through the lock. Yeah, odd. In fact, it's completely vanished now around the corner towards the weir. Very odd indeed. Anyway, I'm going to push on to the lock, keeping in mind that that steamer may suddenly appear on my left here, out of the weir. Oh, I can see the bow of it. I think it must be turning around. That's the only explanation I've got for it. I just need to make sure that we don't both end up in the same point at the same time. Although again now it appears to be heading towards the lock. This is very, very weird indeed. I've got absolutely no explanation for what it's doing. It's now coming right across the Thames. Very odd. Well, I certainly can't get to the lock now. The steamer is right across the Thames there. Oh, now they're reversing. So yeah, they must be turning around. I think I'll just sort of hold back. Yeah, they've got to be turning around. Seem to be doing an 8-point turn is the only way that I can describe it. I don't know if you can pick that up on the video, but there's a male and female swan, and I think 4 or 5 cygnets just hanging around by the bow there of the steamer there. Okay, they now appear to have gone back into forward. Oh, they're giving it some welly. Wow. Going to get around this time. I'll just keep going back and get well out of their way. Oh, I think they're going to get around this time. Yeah, they are. So what I'm going to do is I will head into that bank. Right, on to Temple Lock. And there they go. At least I won't have them ahead of me through all the locks, because you can only get a steamer in the lock at a time. That would have really slowed things down. So right, let's motor on up to Temple Lock. Just coming up here on my right is the place where I moored for a few evenings. I really did like it out. I just loved the sound of the weir. The white noise of the weir I found super relaxing. Now the question is it self-service or is the locky on? No umbrellas up, so it looks like it's self-service. Rightio, okay. So, Temple Lock, self-service. Here we go. Okay, let's have a look at how you deal with a self-service lock on the River Thames. These locks are very different from anything that I've experienced on the canals. First of all, they're electric, and second, it's all push button. There are instructions, but they're not the world's most clear instructions, and various buttons have various lights on. At Temple Lock, the lock was full, so the first thing I needed to do was empty it. To empty the lock, I needed to raise the paddles on the lower gate, and to do that, I press a button. Now, this is the tricky bit. When you press the button, you hold it in until you hear a clunk, and when that clunk has occurred, you take your finger off the button and the paddles will then start to raise automatically. Don't touch that button again. If you do press that button again, there is a danger that you can trip the electrics of the lock and it will shut down, at which point you have to phone the Environment Agency and they send somebody along to reset the lock. Possible design flaw? Now, for safety reasons, the opening of the paddles is fully automatic. They've just opened again here, and yet I didn't touch a button. Lock keepers can override this automated system and open and close the paddles as needed. The problem when doing self-service is you think this is all moving rather slowly, so you impatiently press the paddle button again, and that causes the system to trip. And as the lock slowly empties, the paddles will automatically raise, emptying the lock further. You can understand why it's done like this, because in the hands of somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, the temptation would be to open the paddles to the maximum, and if there were boats in the lock, these could be bounced all over the place. Once the lock is emptied, and you get a sense of this through the relaxation of the gates, the lights on the control panel will change and you can open the gates of the lock. Now, while you mustn't hold the open or close paddle button, you must hold the gates open button, otherwise the gates won't fully open. As I was on my own going through this lock, at this point I had to return to my boat, the Grey Wagtail, and take it up through and into the lock. Okay, so that's Temple Lock emptied. Fairly straightforward. Now it's just a question of getting the boat in there. Doesn't appear to be any other boaters about. Most probably being quite sensible. It is very hot out here. Why do I always keep moving my boat when the weather's this hot? Guess it's better than raining. So what I'm going to do here is moor up on the control side, which is the right hand side of the lock, so I don't have to keep running backwards and forwards across the lock gates. And I personally find that the best way to deal with this is to go in here ultra slow. Oh, contact there, not good. Okay, so I've now got the boat in the lock and moored up using the centre line. If there was a locky on, they would insist that I use a bow and a stern line at this point. Time to close the downstream lock gate, and to do that you have to hold in the close button. If you don't, the lock gate won't close. Once the lock gates are closed and the light has come on the close paddles button, you can press the close paddle button, and once it goes clunk, you stop pressing it, otherwise you will trip the system. The paddles will then close automatically. In the lock, you can only control the gate that is closest to the control panel. Lock keepers can control all gates from the one panel. So once the process is finished at the gate you're working on, you then need to move to the other control panel on the other gate. At the other control panel, I should now be able to open the paddles on the gate. The button should be lit, and I press it until I hear a clunk and then release the button. The paddles will then operate automatically, just as they did for when I was emptying the lock. Again, if you keep pressing that button, it's going to trip the electrics, and that means you've got to phone up the Environment Agency. With the paddles now open, I can then return safely to my boat and make sure it doesn't get caught on the lock side or have any problems as it's being raised. You really do have to keep a close eye on your boat in these locks, because The boats can move quite quickly and ropes can get caught. I've had a couple of scares where ropes have got caught and I've ended up with the boat at a funny angle, and so you really do need to keep a close eye on things. From this point, Temple Lock should take about 2.5 minutes to fill. This is quite a quick filling lock. Some of the locks on the Thames that I've done as self-service have been incredibly slow and you seem to be standing there forever. Anyway, as the lock fills, I keep a careful eye on the boat to make sure it's not bouncing around too much, and I just let the paddles do their work automatically, letting in more and more water as the lock level slowly rises. But it's critical that I keep an eye on the boat to make sure that it doesn't get caught up or snagged at any point. Once the lock is full, and I judge this by looking for movement in the gates or listening for the sound of the gates relaxing, I then go back to the control panel at the gates to open them. If the lock is not full, the control panel will not allow me to open the gates, and sometimes you just have to stand there and wait for the pressure to equalize on either side of the gate. It can be quite frustrating. But once it's ready, you can press and hold the open gate button and the gates will slowly open. I can then return to the boat and take it out of the lock. Right, so that's the lock done, but I need to close the gate and close the sluices, so I need to moor up just after the lock, come back and do that. So back to the lock, press and hold the close gate button. If you don't, they won't close. And once closed, press the close paddles button, wait for the clunk and release the button. Don't hold that button in, and the paddles will then automatically go down, and that is it. That's how you do a self-service lock on the River Thames. It's a lot easier if you've got somebody there to help you. And that's it, that's Temple Lock done. Next stop, Hurley Lock, and hopefully some services. I was kind of hoping that the locky would be on here at Temple Lock so I could ask them where the services are. Looking at the map, I think they're upstream of the lock, so I'm going to have to go through the lock first and then get to the services. And yet again, we're heading up here to Temple Bridge, which has now been out of operation for about 4 years. Fell into disrepair, and they don't seem to be able to agree as to how to fix it, who's going to pay for it, and what it's going to cost. Environmental Agency are now heading up the project, but who knows when this is going to get fixed. During some time in the week and at weekends, there's a ferry that's running across here to get walkers who are doing the Thames path backwards and forwards across the river. Ferry's cunningly called Brian Ferry. From Temple Bridge to Hurley Lock is a very quick run. Temple Lock and Hurley Lock are very, very close together. At Hurley Lock, the lock keeper explained to me that the water point and the Elson point were just upstream from the lock on the right hand side. He told me to look out for a small green box by the side of the river. The tap was incredibly slow. Okay, so what follows is me just completing the services at the lock in Hurley and then cruising up the river through Medmenham and on to Hambleden Lock. Beautiful cruise, beautiful day, lovely sunny weather. Very, very hot though, that was the only problem. Incredibly hot out there on the river. Hambleden Lock was a breeze, there was lockies on and absolutely no problems at all. Straight through the lock. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if you can see that. There's been some sort of pontoons, gangplanks built here since I was last down this way a couple of weeks ago, or 10 days ago. And it's here somewhere that I'm supposed to be mooring up for the regatta. Now, if that's all I've got to moor against, that's going to be interesting, unless I use one for the front and one for the back. If they're 57 foot apart, I guess I could do that. We'll have to see. Okay, so since I was last down here just over a week ago, they've put in all these buoy things along here and the posts and everything. They've put in all these pontoons for boats to moor on. And where I was moored, there is still space, so I'm going to take that as a good sign that there's space over there. So if I do go up to Henley and I can't find anywhere to moor, I can come back down here and moor up. Although it does mean I've sort of got to negotiate my way through all these buoys and stuff. Shouldn't be too much of a problem, I don't think. But yeah, finding mooring could be a challenge. Let's see how it goes. That's beginning to look a bit interesting. Up front, that big boat seems to be coming straight down towards me. Fair old rate. So here we are, sneaking up the side of the regatta course. This time next week it will be full of people on the banks and full of people rowing, and that will go on for 6 days, and then they pack it all away for another year. The River Thames, and we've got Henley and St Mary's Church. They're just on the bend of the Thames as it goes through the town.
Now, this was something I hadn't really appreciated until I took my own boat up the River Thames with all the regatta gear in place, that is all the piles and booms, etc. There are parts of the river that are now very narrow because of the piles and the booms. In fact, the Environment Agency instructions describes one section as the Narrows, with strict instructions for no stopping or mooring in that particular section. And this is the narrow section. It is surprisingly narrow. You just don't appreciate from the bank how much space the regatta course takes up.
Well, they're on the wrong side. They seem to be looking in my direction. And then you look behind and you've got this coming up behind you. What to do boating on the Thames. And we've got a 4 coming down here. This could prove interesting. They appear to be cocksmiths. I wonder if they've seen this big boat here. Oh yeah, they have. Good. That's a shame. I was hoping to moor in there on the right. I'm determined to moor down here at some point. No, I don't think I could get in front of that wide beam. That's a shame. Oh, no, I reckon I could actually. It'd be tight, but I could get the boat in there. Wouldn't be pretty. It would be doable. Just. And this is something I hope never gets old for me, I'm sure it won't. Lining up for the central arch of the bridge at Henley-on-Thames and shooting through it. Yep, never grows old. Now the big question is there going to be any mooring up here? I think I'm going to go up the left-hand side of the island. Really, I should go up the right and then come down the left, because I will be wanting to moor on the left. So that seems to be the more sensible approach, for me at least anyway. Great view there, looking back down towards Henley and the bridge. Fantastic. Okay, that's a bit of a surprise. That big Hobbs boat that went past me earlier has done a U-ey where I wouldn't have expected a boat to do a U-ey. It's come through the gap here between two islands. Now, years and years ago, there used to be one island all the way along here, and in the middle there, it can be still shallow in places. So I'm kind of surprised they went through there. But maybe it's no longer shallow, maybe it's been sorted out. But anyway, kind of surprised. Now, just as you come around the tip of this island here, the island being on my right, you can see Marsh Lock, the horse bridge, the one that's still open, and you can see the weir. Now, ideally what I'd like to do is moor somewhere on the bank on the right hand side up here. Big question is, am I going to get lucky? Well, the first spot I was thinking of, there's a boat in there. There's another boat in there. It doesn't look like I'm going to be lucky. So I'm going to do a U-ey, go down that side of the island and take the first spot that I come across. Oh, I might be able to get in between that deflated inflatable, well, between that blue wide beam up there and the white boat. That would be good if I could. That would be my ideal spot, actually. Yeah, I reckon I can get in there. Oh, and it looks like there's spots further down towards the town, which is good as well, but that would be my ideal spot. Reason being, there's the car park just up there, so I can go and do shopping and then just wheel it across the field there and restock the boat, which would be fantastic. So yeah, I'm going to go for that. Okay, here we go. I can see why people are avoiding mooring there, because it's in direct sunlight. Other boats seem to be heading for where there is shade under the trees. I do enjoy turning a boat on the Thames. Oh, well, that was hot work. That's me moored up in Henley. Pretty much got the spot that I wanted. Absolutely ideal. Anyway, that's the end of my cruise from Marlow to Henley. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big like and a big thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, because it really does help. And if you would like to, why not give this video a hype, because again, that helps as well. On the screen now, you'll see a QR code. If you scan that QR code, that will take you through to a free newsletter about the Grey Wagtail. Totally free. I only send out emails about once a week saying when a new video's come out. Anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.